a man must shed the light of the sun upon other men, he must first of all have it within himself. Welcome to the Meet Your Mentor TV show. My name is Daniela Edwasare, and I'm excited to be your host. The Meet Your Mentor TV show is an educational TV program for youth across Africa. It's an initiative that gives young adults the skills, experience, and knowledge needed to build a career. Today on the show, we're going to be speaking to a phenomenal woman with a master's in aeronautical and aerospace engineering, and also has a PhD in mechanical engineering with a special focus on aerospace design. She's an associate dean and the head of department of the mechanical engineering department at the Academic City College. She's also been involved in the design and manufacturing of tooling and fixturing components required for aircraft processing assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back from the break, we'll have the opportunity to interact with our phenomenal mentor for today. We'll be right back. You're welcome back from the break. I'm itching to speak to our phenomenal mentor for today. So if you're ready as I am, help me welcome Dr. Lucy Agyepong. Hello. Dr. Agyepong, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Have you ever done this before?
No, actually.
It's your first time?
This is my first.
Oh, we're honored.
Thank you.
With such a long profile, I'm looking at you, I'm wondering how old you are.
Oh, yes. So, okay, so you're asking how old?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, a lady doesn't reveal her age.
Yeah.
But I'm 37. I know, I look 25.
No, but that's, I mean, highly impressive.
Thank you.
How did you do, before we come to how you did it all, who is Dr. Agyepong? Tell us.
So I like to think of myself as a fun, bubbly person. I'm an engineer by trade.
Okay.
I'm now a lecturer as well. As mentioned in my profile, I'm working at Academic City College.
Okay.
I'm also a mother and a wife as well.
Okay.
So I think I'm an all-rounded person,
Right.
really.
So tell us about your educational background.
Okay.
What schools did you go to?
So I started my primary school at St. Teresa's at North Kaneshie.
Okay.
And then I moved on from there to Wesley Girls High School. Whoop, whoop.
I thought as much.
And then from Wesley Girls High School, that's when I went to the UK.
Okay.
So I did my integrated bachelor's and master's at the University of Leeds,
Okay.
in aeronautical and aerospace engineering. And then I moved on to do my PhD. And the rest they say is history.
Okay. Have you always wanted to be an engineer?
In a way, not directly. So I remember this story when, at the age of 12, I remember I was in North Kaneshie and I saw a plane fly by. Then I was like, oh my God, I want to be a commercial pilot. One day I want to fly passengers across the globe. And that's when I found out that you need perfect eyesight to be able to fly. And as you can see, I wear glasses.
Oh.
So then I was like, if I can't fly, then I'm going to build it. And that's how I thought I'll become an aeronautical engineer.
So right from the beginning, you told yourself, I mean, if I can fly it, I'll build it.
I'll
and
build
you
it.
worked towards it.
And I worked forward. And the interesting thing is that when I went to the University of Leeds, because I had to do a foundation transfer course because I had just finished the WASI.
Right.
And I had to select the department I wanted to work in. And at that time, they didn't even have an aeronautical department. So I enrolled for mechatronics because I thought it sounded cool, like mechanical and robotics. So I was like,
Okay.
I'll do mechatronics because I knew I wanted to be in the mechanical field. But then, like as it would have it, by the end of my foundation year, they introduced aeronautics. I was like, yes, that's me. And then I went straight to do that.
Okay. So after school, tell us about your first job. What was your first job?
So my first job actually was in school. So in my first year of university,
Okay.
and it's not even related to engineering at all, I did customer service. I was selling insurance to, I don't know, whoever would buy travel insurance.
Okay.
And it's quite interesting, the skills that I acquired from this job. So I actually stayed with them throughout my whole education. So throughout my undergrad, throughout my PhD, I was working with them part-time. But then I think the skills that I gained there from the people skills, understanding what customers need, understanding what people need, has shaped me into the engineer I am today.
Okay, interesting. So, have you ever been the only woman in your class?
So that was what I was wishing for. You know, I was coming from Wesley Girls and I'm like, yeah, girl power, you know, I want to be the only girl, I'm breaking barriers. But actually, when I enrolled for aeronautics, there was 12 of us and there were 5 girls.
Okay.
And there was 6 boys. No, yeah, there was 6 and 7. So it was actually quite even.
Yeah.
But then I'm glad that the first and second were always women. We always topped the class. Sorry, boys.
That's exciting. How did it make you feel to see that, you know, the numbers were almost balanced?
So, I mean, within our class, it empowered us because we're all pioneers. In
Right.
some instances, we were like the guinea pig of University of Leeds, teaching people aeronautics for the first time. So we rallied up and there was no distinction of, oh, you're a guy or you're a girl, so we're better. No, there wasn't that at all. We're all quite evenly matched. However, when we joined the whole mechanical engineering department for our core courses, then the 5 of us ladies were like 10% of the whole engineering. So that's when it started to dawn on us, okay,
Right.
there's not that many women in engineering, so we are advocates. So that's why I advocate for the women in engineering, because I'm a strong advocate for that.
Was it easy or has it been difficult, well, in your entire career?
Yeah.
Has it been difficult navigating your way as an engineer and as a woman?
It hasn't been as difficult as others have had it.
Okay.
I would say that.
Okay.
I guess because of my background and how my mom raised me, because
Right.
my dad died at a very early age. So I was always brought up by this strong, independent woman. So I've always known that women can do everything.
Right.
So it's not really been a barrier to me per se.
Okay.
But then it's only when I go for places, I go to conferences, I'm presenting, that people say, oh my God, you're a woman. And I'm like, yeah, you know. But then it's never held me back in any way at all.
Right. What are the values that drive you or have driven you so far?
So I'll say that the values that have driven me, the first one will be honesty and integrity.
Right.
In everything that you need to do, or in everything I do, I try to be honest, and I think about my professional conduct as I do everything. Because if you're not honest and you don't have integrity in what you do, your professional standard can come down.
Right.
So you always have to keep that as a part of you. Other things that I value in this world, we live in a multicultural, multi-social organization. So I believe teamwork, you always have to be willing to work as part of a team. No one individual succeeds by themselves.
Right.
So I'm always a strong advocate for teamwork. But more importantly, you need to be hardworking. Nothing is given to anybody on a silver platter. You need to work hard for it.
Right. So you got your master's and then you went on to get a PhD. Today, as a young, growing woman, they'll probably tell you, okay, so finish your master's and then find a man and get married.
Yes.
Did that happen to you?
Oh, that happened to me. All the time, that happened to me. I remember one of our grandparents of blessed memory was like, it's okay. You know, you've gone to school, it's okay. Now find anyone who will marry you. Anyone, and get married and have kids. And at that point, I was like, no, I'm pushing for this PhD.
Yeah.
I mean, in hindsight, do I agree with this? Should I have not followed my education? I think what would have been best for me, and one of the things sometimes when I reflect, is like, it would have been good to marry early, because I married quite late, purely based on I would have wanted to have my kids early so I can
Right.
dedicate and focus on my education.
Yeah.
However, the way it happened for me at that time has given me the opportunities I have now. So I think you learn from it either way. But I wasn't upset by it because I knew it was coming from a good place, so I just smiled it off.
Anyway, so how do you approach risk? Because I'm sure that you've encountered a lot of it in your area. So
Yes.
how do you approach them?
So the nature of engineering and the nature of work, risk is a part of life.
Right.
Everything that you do, there's always risk associated with it. And before I moved to Ghana,
You've been outside your whole life?
No, I've been outside for the past 18 years. And even the move to Ghana itself was a big risk.
Right.
But with everything, even in industry, in your personal life, you always have to attack a risk head on. and identify what are the mitigations. So what will happen if this happens? A risk is always like the likelihood of something negative happening. So you assess the impact. What impact will it have? What can I do to reduce those impacts? And that is one of the things that I've always admonished for. Even in our day-to-day jobs, there's always risk. So you have to tackle it head on, but you need to plan and say, okay, let me give myself options. There's plan A, plan B, and plan C. If one of them doesn't work, at least one of them will fall into place.
So talking about risk, let's move to failures.
Okay.
You've obviously encountered some failures
Yes.
in your life. How did you overcome them? And any particular instance you'd like to share?
My first ever proper failure, before I got around to the idea that in everything you do, you have to fail, so you have to learn, was actually failing my driving test. I know that's funny, but the first time I actually took my driving test, that was in the UK. I was like, I'm going to pass first time round. I've never failed at anything. Even at university, my lowest ever score is like 65. So I'm like, you know, this is a walk in the park. And then I actually failed, and my driving instructor even had a heart attack that same day. Hopefully it's not because of my driving. But hopefully. But basically what that taught me was that it hit me hard. I went home and I actually cried, and I was like, no, is this the start of failure? And that's when I learned that in life you have to, you know, fail so you can learn. It's the ability to get up from failure and move on. That is what makes an individual. Right. So I had to go back and I had to learn and accept what had happened and put measures in place. So I did more classes, did more training. But then when I moved into the engineering setting, that's when I realized failure was actually a part of the job. You had to fail to be able to be successful. The nature of the job that I was involved in, which was looking at bridging the gap between academia and industry, this was whereby we're using academic knowledge to make impact in industry. It never been done before. So you are bound to fail. So we had a place that basically we promoted failure, because it's through these failures that you learn what the solutions are, what the gaps are. So it became a part of life, as long as it didn't demoralize you.
Right. So talking about failing being a part of your job, it brings my mind to the idea of putting together the components of aircraft assembly process. How does that happen?
Okay. So when we talk about failure, in aerospace, we are not, okay. So your day-to-day running of projects, you're allowed to fail and make mistakes in the development phase.
Right.
In aerospace, if you are making failure at the end, it's catastrophic. You have a number of people on the aircraft that could die. So that one is not allowed. But then failing early in the design process allows you to tackle things earlier, put mitigations in place, put structures in place so that they don't happen. So I mean, we came up with, you know, one of the things, current aircraft all have that fly-by-wire, they're all automated, but they all have a redundancy behind them, so that if all electric fails, you have a mechanical backup. And that's what failing earlier on in the design allows you to do, to prevent catastrophic failure in the end.
Interesting. That just means that even though we're allowed to fail and rise up, sometimes failing at certain points in time can be catastrophic.
Failing at certain points in time can be catastrophic. That's why you need to be aware of it. And it's similar to risks. That's where risks come into play. What could go wrong? And if it does, what happens? How can we prevent it from going wrong? When it comes to the other side of failure, which is your day-to-day, you're doing something and it doesn't go as planned, those are easy to deal with. But when it comes to people's lives, then it's very vital that you have to make sure you have the measures in place.
What's been your biggest challenge ever?
My biggest challenge, it has varied over the years. The most recent one was around management and, you know, personalities clashing.
Right.
So in the industry that we are in, or that I was in prior to moving to Ghana, I was working with a bunch of engineers and I was managing managers in effect. So managers are people that know that they're capable of doing what they do. And there was a bit of a personality clash there, whereby they didn't want to be told what to do. And it's that getting their buy-in and getting their support and letting them know that we're all in this together was one of the biggest challenges. We're dealing with older people and them looking at a younger person and trying to get them to respect you and to understand what you're saying was a bit of a challenge, but we overcame that challenge.
I was going to ask you about the fact that definitely you would be dealing with people who are older.
Yes.
And how do you manage that?
So I think ultimately, with a lot of them, I was able to get their trust because they knew where I was coming from.
Okay.
And this is why I always look back on my customer service skills, which I gained on how to talk to people.
Yeah.
And throughout my management life, I've developed that skill in addressing people's concern,
right,
letting them feel at ease, letting them know they're an individual, and getting to know them. But when you get to know them and they get to know you, you're able to work amicably. It's not been easy, I wouldn't say that,
yeah,
because I'm a fierce, vibrant, and I'd like to say I put my feet down, but there's a place and a time for everything.
Has there ever been a time in your career where you felt like you're not pushing as much, or you're not being as successful as you think that you should be?
I think in every role, in everything you do, there's always someone who's doing better than you. And there's always that level that you think, oh, I could do more.
Yeah.
So what I try and tell myself after every major project or every major phase in my life is, what could I have done better? And how do I include that in the next phase of life? So that inspires me to do more and to continually go at it. You could always do better. One of the things that I used to do in university, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it, is used to leave my assignments to the last minute. And then
I think it's a
normal thing.
Yeah.
So before an assignment is due, before a project is due, I'll stay 24 hours, 36 hours, no sleep, and get it done.
Work under pressure.
Work under pressure. So that's what I realized, that I am someone who works very well under pressure because I deliver. And as a result, it was a hard habit to break.
Yeah.
But then when I went into the industry, it actually made me a better project manager because I needed to set myself milestones. If you give me a year to do something, it will happen in the last month of the year. So I set myself individual milestones, a month, 2 months, where I have to constantly deliver. And that's what's pushed me.
Interesting. What are you most proud of?
That's an interesting question. So if I can rephrase it as, what am I most happy about?
Okay.
Or, I would say relationships that I've built over the years. Okay. So if I look back to my friends that I had in Wesley Girls High School, they are all doing so amazingly well in their current professions now. I mean, we have lawyers, doctors, surgeons, and having that close relationship with people that you met in your high school and being able to still relate and share ideas and experiences have been amazing.
Right.
There's been a lot of relationships that I've developed over the years. One very good one was a lady I met in university in our first year. We became best friends, and she was the actual one that recommended me for my previous job and said, Lucy can do this job because I know her. And that got me into that role and gave me the opportunities that put me on. And then also, obviously, I'm happy about my family. My little one, I've got a 2-year-old at the moment, so okay. I'm very happy about those as well.
We'll talk about her later.
Okay.
Him or her?
Her.
Her. We'll
yes.
talk about her later. Anyway, so have you ever landed a role that you felt that you weren't initially so qualified for, and you had to, brace yourself up and do a bit of more work to be? Have you ever experienced that?
I've experienced that twice.
Okay.
So the first one was when I got into Manufacturing Technology Center in the UK. So I'd originally applied for that role to be a simulations engineer, to join their simulation team, because I had an aeronautical background. I was in aircraft design, so I thought that was my natural fit. But somehow that didn't go through. So it was 6 months down the line that they contacted me and said, we have a role, but it's in tooling and fixturing. So are you interested? It's a research engineer role. And I thought to myself, okay, research skills I have. What the heck is tooling and fixturing? So I had to do a bit of prep work, and I went for the interview and I was like, I'll hold up my hands up. I don't know too much about this field. However, I'll work my hardest to be able to achieve it. So I got into the position. I remember the second day of being at the institution, I was given a project whereby we had to come up with the latest manufacturing processes to create a component. And to be honest, hand on heart, I had no idea. So when they gave me the work, I thought, he was like, this is what you have to do. We need a report by lunchtime. I'll see you. And then they left the office. So I said, okay, 1 minute. Went to the bathroom, went to cry. And then I looked at myself and I'm like, you can do this. Went back into the room and I was like, okay, so first of all, this word, what does it mean? And then gradually, what you realize is that you don't appreciate the number of knowledgeable people you have around you. So that's the first lesson I also learned, that to utilize the skills of people around you to get to where you need to get to. So I worked with a number of engineers to sit down and say, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve. And then they came up with the ideas. I'm like, oh, actually, I questioned that. Based on my design experience, this should be this way. And I started offering value and added value that way. So that was pretty challenging. I didn't think I was qualified for the role, but eventually I built into the role. The second one was when I was made a technology manager. This was when I was managing a team of 45 people with a combined over 250 years experience amongst them. These were senior engineers, you know, advanced research engineers, and my interview was really, really tough. I was on maternity at that time when they said this position is up and I applied for it. The interview was grueling and I actually thought I wouldn't get the role. But then I got the role. But then it prepared me for what the real challenge was, because you're going to deal with different personalities to achieve the common goal, and getting the buy-in, getting the support was going to be critical. So again, I learned by being in the role, and I became I guess, the manager that I am today.
Interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been interacting with Dr. Lucy Agyepong. She has quite an interesting story and interesting experiences. But we'll be right back from this commercial break. When we get back, we'll delve more into her life. Welcome back from the break. This is the Meet Your Mentor TV show, and we're interacting with Dr. Lucy Agyepong. So tell us, what's one decision that you've made in your life that has impacted in your career?
Oh, the one decision I've made in my life that's impacted my career, I guess, is that decision that no matter what is thrown at me, I'm just going to put my all in it. Because as I said, through the previous examples, there have been instances where I felt like I needed a bit more, and I wasn't at that level yet. But either way, I saw it as a challenge that I have to face head on. So in everything that I do, and I encourage younger generations to do that as well, everything that you do, just pull your all in it. One thing that I've always been told is that you will not be in a position if God didn't want you in that position. If you couldn't do it, it wouldn't have come to you. So once you have it, that means you have it in you. So pull it from somewhere. And then just have that whole can-do attitude and say, yeah, I can do this. And then put your game face on and just go and face it.
Is there something you know today that you wish you had known 15 years ago?
Yes, actually. 15 years ago, I wish I had listened more. Because my natural personality means I'm very chatty, very quick to give a response. But over the years, what experience has taught me is that you need to listen and observe your environment and see what impact whatever decisions you're making are affecting on your immediate people around you, your immediate society, and the global society as a whole. So 15 years ago, if I was speaking to myself 15 years ago, I'll say slow down, calm down, and listen. There's so much you can learn from people who are very quiet. Without, you know, being in your face all the time. There's so much to learn, and there's always things around you that's educating you. Learn from others, learn from people's experiences, and it'll make you a better person.
If you're watching us out there and you have questions, you can drop them on our social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you once again that you could do this. This has been the Meet Your Mentor show. My name is Daniela Eduasare, and I've been your host. We'll come your way same time next week with another exciting edition. See you.